So as I was saying about these kind of 80s, 70s, 60s TV programs depicting superheroes, um, you know, they remain images. They remain crystallized as part of our culture. And when our culture evolves to a point where those images aren't relevant anymore, um, what tends to happen is we start to think of those characters solely in those terms. So the only way to, you know, undo that image is to find new ways of representing that character on screen that are relevant to our time. Um, a lot of people will think, well, Wonder Woman can't do that, but that's because they're thinking of that TV show and they're not thinking about the character as she's represented in the comics. So I gave the example of the Green Hornet, but there's another problematic issue here. Um, you know, it would be very easy for us to say, well, DC hasn't done an animated TV show, or they haven't done, a Wonder Woman film, and that's because she's female. There's a lot of merit to that argument, and I'll go into that just in the last bit, just the last little thing I'll say. But let's think about it. I mean, even Superman suffered from this issue of having a film that was great for its time, but that didn't translate well some years later, and they needed to update and give him something, a new image, um, to make him relevant again. Because a lot of people, for like the mid '90s, thought Superman was really, really uncool. Even in the Lois and Clark TV show, it was actually Lois who was the breakout star of that show. People didn't like the Superman character. Why? Because he was trying too much um, to 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 emulate what had come before. They weren't trying to find a new way to show Superman that would be relatable to modern sensibilities. And after you had the Batman film, where you have this awesome, super cool superhero, it was very hard to relate to that guy. Um, and he was so all powerful, and he's all moral, and he had no dark side. There was nothing. So again, um, you know that has affected the way people viewed Superman, and he was so very much uncool for a long time. And now they've come out with the Man of Steel, which I'm super super excited for, which is great. And I think a lot of that is going to be undone, and we're finally going to start seeing the Superman that reflects more of his modern incarnations in the comics, because it's a great, great story. It's a great, iconic story. Very much like, as I'm saying about Wonder Woman. But another issue to be addressed. I mean, look at the Incredible Hulk. Look at Spider-Man. Look at Wonder Woman. And you think, okay, well, not only was there a problem with how they were depicted in terms of their character, but in terms of their very superpowers, they had to be majorly depowered. You didn't see them really kicking ass. I mean, what did the Incredible Hulk do? He was just this painted green man, and what he'd do is he'd bend iron around the bad guy and trap them so that they couldn't move. But that isn't like really the Hulk from the comics, like punching tanks like into each other and stuff like that. So again, that affected the way we view the character of the Incredible Hulk until the latest movies came out and addressed some of those misconceptions, and showed how cool and awesome they could be just in terms of like action, in terms of their powers. Um, and it's gained them a new audience, and it's gained them a new fan base. Wonder Woman is very much the same. Like Linda Carter, I mean, what did she do? Bless her cotton socks. She was really, really great at like portraying the dignity of the character. you know, amongst all this campiness, she was definitely the best thing about that show in terms of like how the character um, was portrayed. Um, but you know, in terms of the action sequences, they weren't that good. So you know, people think of Wonder Woman like that, but Wonder Woman's this Amazonian warrior trained for thousands and thousands of years in all all sorts of Greco-Roman armed and unarmed combat. So she's pretty kick-ass. Plus she's got superpowers. So you know, they didn't have the technology to do superpowered people justice. Even Superman, you look at like what the films were like and how they depicted his super strength and etc. etc. It just didn't look that good, like in terms of like what we expect of our taste these days. But luckily now we have CGI, um, and there is no longer any excuse for not doing Wonder Woman justice in a movie anymore. There's just no excuse. I myself have been writing a Wonder Woman script, which is going pretty. It's going really well actually. I've been enjoying it a lot, but unfortunately, I don't think anything ever is going to be made of it. But like whatever, you know, I like writing stuff, so it's a hobby of mine, and yeah, but it's really cool. It's kind of a Nolan-esque take on the character. I'm not taking away her superpowers. I'm not taking away her mystical origin or anything like that. Maybe tweaking little bits here and there, but ultimately it's a very similar story, but on this kind of epic Nolan-esque or Donna style platform. And what I really wanted to do is bring her into the real world, but like add some psychological realism and depth to the character. What are her motivations? What are her villains' motivations? What are her supporting cast motivations? And really make them all three-dimensional characters. Um, so, you know, but the point is, you know, that with this CGI, I mean, the whole world of Themyscira can finally be brought to life like a real, like, well, it's not a kingdom, actually, it's a monarchy, but it can be brought to life. And, you know, as can her, um, you know, amazing superpowers and her fighting style, you know, alongside these superpowers. So all of that could make a really, really kick-ass film, and I could bet my life if it was done well, it would really, really work and speak to people. A lot of women, a lot of black people, a lot of gay people, and just generally people. You know, like who like hot chicks, for instance. You know, like could kick ass. So if it was taken seriously, it could do really, really well. Last thing I'll say is about the animated series. DC, shame on you for not having given Wonder Woman an animated series by now, especially after Rucker and Simone's run. They could have done something really, really good with that. Thank you for having listened.